This is Denver's unwelcome sign, a city that has more street deaths, cyclists, pedestrians, drivers and crashes than we have homicides. And now the city is promising action by the end of the month. Let's take a closer look at the video that some claim shows a Coloradan being shot in the back as he's killed by police. And Colorado's political recall wars. Teams are asking you for your signature, and others are asking you to decline to sign by signing. What the what? That's next. If telling people to slow down and to put down their phones was enough, well, then Denver would not have more traffic deaths than homicides. But considering that it is not enough, and that is how people are dying on our streets these days, our Nusha Roy asked the mayor if he thinks it's a public health crisis.
So we ask people to put down their phones, put them in their glove compartment, in their trunk if they have to.
The mayor knows this message feels familiar.
Every spring, summer, we do a press event like this.
More people have died while traveling on Denver streets, including pedestrians, bicyclists, and car crashes, than the number of homicides Denver police are investigating.
If you want to know if it's a public health crisis right now, it is.
The Vision Zero plan is to have zero traffic deaths by 2030. Today, the mayor told us part of that plan includes slowing down the speed limit in 5 Denver corridors. First up, Evans Avenue between Huron and Federal Boulevard. It'll go from 35 to 30 miles an hour by the end of the month.
We've had 2 recent deaths on our streets, and we hear the community's call for us to do more to prevent these tragedies. And believe me, we're trying to do everything we can.
But missing from that list of streets is Colfax and Federal. The nonprofit advocacy group Bicycle Colorado says the two are very busy and can be very deadly. But the city says changing the speed limit would require working with CDOT.
We haven't looked at Federal or Colfax just yet, but that doesn't mean we're not going to entertain those conversations.
Bicycle Colorado believes in Vision Zero enough to stand by the mayor today.
The behavior is a piece of this, and we need to hear that message that the mayor gave every year. But at the end of the day, it's about how easy it is to speed on our streets right now.
But also said the city is behind on making safety changes, and what they need to see is urgency.
I think we're going to find out in the next month to 4 months.
The reality is that the people have to respond. Government alone is not going to solve this problem.
So as of August 4th, the city says 45 people died in traffic crashes in the city, and they are working on other projects too. That's like protected bike lanes. They want to make crosswalks better marked as well, so that both drivers and people can see it. That's just a couple of things on their list. That's a part of Vision Zero.
Changing speed limits doesn't necessarily change people's speeds, though. I mean,
Right.
that tends to be enforcement.
Yeah, so they talked about Denver police doing more of that traffic enforcement, especially with the start of the school year, which we hear a lot, at this time of year. But the mayor kept going back to the fact that these changes don't work unless people follow the rules.
Yeah, incumbent upon every driver. I'm sorry that we left that chair in your way there. That was very rude. Just slide that wherever you need to. All right, thank you, Nusha. It's a sign from an ex-viewer who told me that she could not find the right words, but she hoped that we would find them. Most of the signs that we show you make us laugh. This one made us gasp because someone was paying so little attention that they could crush a crossing sign at Eisenhower Park. Obviously, someone paying so little attention that they could have very well crushed a pedestrian or a cyclist. Tinky Crosby saw this sign on Sunday and hoped that we would say something about it. So we'll say this. Whoever drove into the crossing sign at Eisenhower Park had the luckiest day of their life. Lucky they hit metal and that they ruined their bumper rather than hit a person and ruin lives. Somebody got a wake-up call out there. Chance to look up from their phone or their radio or whatever and think just for a moment that something catastrophic had happened. I imagine they're driving differently today. The talk down in Colorado Springs was that an unarmed robbery suspect was shot in the back and killed by police. That's what people were saying. Then we saw the video. Chris Vanderveen has our closer look.
We'll show you the video in frames to give you an idea of what's taking place. That's Devon Bailey, 19. He raises his arms and then falls as he's running away from 2 officers. There they are. He's critically wounded and will not survive. Bailey's family says it is a video they find hard to watch, yet want you to see to better understand what happened to him. For one, they believe Bailey was shot in the back while fleeing police conducting a robbery investigation.
The autopsy report will establish it.
9 News legal analyst Scott Robinson says the autopsy and body camera footage have already told investigators what they need to know.
The police department knows the truth, And the longer they hold on to it, even if it turns out to be disadvantageous to the city, the worse it's going to be.
Was Bailey armed? And was he the one police say brandished a weapon? Critical questions in this investigations for the officers involved.
They can always use deadly force to defend themselves or others from imminent serious bodily injury or death.
At one point, one officer drops what appears to be a medical kit. We can't say what the officer drops here. Again, the officer's body camera footage should show whatever it is clearly. Springs police have turned the investigation, as required by law, over to another agency. In this case, a neighboring agency of theirs, the El Paso County Sheriff. For Next, this is Chris Vanderveen.
The mayor of Colorado Springs, the former state attorney general John Suthers, is asking everybody for patience while this is investigated. While Bailey had pleaded not guilty to a sexual assault case a few days earlier, it's not clear if the officers who shot him knew anything about that pending case. Students coming back to Highlands Ranch STEM School today saw a school resource officer, an actual deputy on the campus. It was a private security guard on duty 3 months ago during the shooting that killed their classmate Kendrick Castillo. Counselors were also available for those STEM students today. Our next question comes from Barb in Lakewood. She wants to know about a postcard hand-delivered to her. It's from a group opposing the attempted recall of Democratic Senator Brittany Petterson. Barb asked us, if she signs the anti-recall postcard, could that signature actually be used for the recall? Yeah, Barb, why do they want your signature, huh? That did look funny to us, especially that decline to sign by signing here. So Barb, our politics guy, Marshall Zellinger, took it to the Secretary of State's office.
It says decline to sign just above the postcard that asks for your signature. The group Democracy First Colorado is fighting the attempted recalls of Democratic state senators Brittany Petterson of Lakewood and Pete Lee in Colorado Springs. They are taking these postcards to voters who may have signed the recall petitions. The postcard would eventually get to Secretary of State Jenna Griswold, telling her not to count that voter's signature.
Is this legit?
Sure, it has all of the information that they're required to submit to us.
We took the postcard to the Secretary of State's Deputy Director of Elections. She told us this is one of 2 steps you have to take to get your name off of a petition if you had second thoughts.
If somebody who signed one of the recall petitions wants to withdraw their name, they need to submit a written request, both to our office and to at least one member of the recall committee.
So to answer your question, Barb, no, signing this cannot be used to put your name on a petition. It would help get your name off a petition, but it's just one step you would have to take. You'd also have to contact the people doing the recall efforts to let them know you changed your mind.
The people behind this postcard told me that they would also send a copy to the group trying to recall Petterson, thus solidifying both things that they need to meet, giving it to the Secretary of State's office, giving it to the other group. But the postcard actually revealed something new, and we're going to try to zoom in on the fine print. The new campaign finance law that took effect last week requires these types of mailers and handouts to have transparency, just like the paid-for designation on this. For example, the committee's name here, it says Democracy for Colorado here on the postcard. It also says paid for by Democracy for Colorado in the finest print possible. Guess what? Democracy for Colorado is wrong. It doesn't exist. I searched it on the Secretary of State's campaign money database. It should say Democracy First Colorado. And Kyle, because I found that, they're going to notify the Secretary of State's office they made a mistake. Someone could file a complaint about that and it could cause a whole hullabaloo, but they're going to fix it first.
It's like everybody's just rushing around, all this crazy business. All right. Also, I really enjoy your little tie clip there. That's fantastic, Marshall.
Thank you.
So we've told you how the group trying to recall Democratic Governor Jared Polis will not say how many signatures they've collected so far. They would need a new state record. They say they're on track, but no numbers. A new complaint filed against the dismissed Polis recall says that group is also not properly reporting its donations. Here's how this works, all right? You give the recall a contribution of $20 or more. They need to write down who gave them the money and report it to the state. Your name's going to show up. A complaint filed today with the Secretary of State's office says that the Polis recall is getting $20 donations and then handing out a Polis penny, a penny. So your contribution is $19.99, and they can avoid the reporting transparency. They say everything's on the up and up. But wait, there's more. There's also a complaint against the Rocky Mountain gun owners in the failed recall of Democratic State Representative Tom Sullivan. Now, here on this program, we told you that the gun rights group said it spent $45,000 on the effort, but only took in $30,000. The complaint against Rocky Mountain gun owners says They should have shown their work on that. Instead, their campaign finance report just shows $0 in, $0 out. A state election committee will figure out if they need to show their receipts. Denver's Department of Public Safety says the 500 people in Denver's halfway houses aren't going anywhere right now. The concern about what's going to happen to these folks is because the contracts with the two companies that operate the halfway houses were abruptly ended by City Council. Today we learned the city's considering some short-term contracts to phase out the companies rather than have everything end overnight. City Council Monday night voted to end more than $10 million in contracts with companies called Core Civic and GEO. They run 6 of the 11 halfway houses in Denver. GEO is the same group that runs that controversial immigration detention center in Aurora. That's a big reason why some council members did not like doing business with these prisons for profit groups. Department of Public Safety admits there was no backup plan in place of what to do with people who are currently in halfway houses because those contracts were always just renewed in the past. They're responsible for negotiating some short-term deals and getting those back to City Council. One of the issues that they're facing is that GEO and Core Civic own facilities on land zoned for halfway houses, so they could be in the neighborhood of trying to find some more.
I wonder if they remember that first show.
Everything I know about pharmacology suggests the Rolling Stones probably don't remember their first shows, but Denver remembers. And students, with an idea of how to redevelop Denver's 5 Points, find an interesting audience for their theories. A billionaire who grew up here. That's next.
Not too bad for a Wednesday. Summer storms. We're tracking isolated activity tonight and probably more thunderstorms tomorrow. A lot of you headed to outdoor concert venues Thursday night, Friday night, or Saturday, and weather will be a factor, but maybe done with the 90s. A nice break from the heat coming. We'll track these storms as they move out tonight. Denver still may see a brief shower, rumble of thunder between now and midnight. All the heavy rain down south. That's where the flash flood watch is out, and driving may be difficult. I-25 corridor from Castle Rock down to Trinidad. Storms turn a little bit heavier off to the east of us late tonight, hold together into Nebraska and Kansas. Widely scattered storms expected tomorrow afternoon, and 1 or 2 of those could hold some heavy rain and lightning. Tonight, a little lightning and thunder early, and then we've got some clearing with lows in the lower 60s. Tomorrow, sun to start, clouds by the afternoon, and showers and thunderstorms. They'll linger into the evening both Thursday and Friday. Weekend looks a little drier, and early next week, temperatures back near 90 with lots of summer sunshine. Periods of darkness, Kyle, followed by periods of light. That's what I can.
That looks like terrible skiing up there. Unsafe. I mean,
it was so pretty a minute ago.
Yeah, no, that seems very unsafe. Thank you, Kathy.
Okay.
High schoolers in Denver have been given a voice on how they would like to see redevelopment happen in their neighborhoods. It was the University of Denver that reached out to them for ideas. 15 groups of students came up with thoughts on how to redevelop 5 Points and Lincoln Hills. And today they put their ideas up against the ideas of others. 3 groups made the final round where they could pitch those ideas to billionaire philanthropist Robert Smith. He's a Denver native and East High School grad.
Here at the local host arena here in Lakewood.
We decided to keep our solution to people of his age, though.
And that kind of puts some emotional and some like inspiration and like why I should go, because this man is so successful in what he does, and maybe I would like to be a part of that type of business.
Robert Smith sponsored that competition at DU, and today he offered all of those students a word of advice on how to succeed in business.
Find joy in the grind, find joy in the iteration, find joy in the collaboration, because that will ultimately, from a business perspective, make you successful and help you actually understand how the world works a little better, that you can actually create businesses that are sustainable and long-term.
Wise words. If you don't enjoy the grind, it is just the grind. The winning team presented a project that would turn a vacant building in 5 Points into a jazz club, a museum of some older businesses from the neighborhood, and a bodega-style grocery store with studio space for local businesses.
Mile High's getting ready for the Rolling Stones. Quite the venue upgrade from their first Colorado show.
The acoustics, I guess, are just horrendous.
The archives remember what a lot of minds have forgotten. And the most Colorado thing we've seen today, a dog that made it to the top of the 14er the only way it could. Next.
Before this next story about the Rolling Stones playing here 54 years after their first Colorado show, I was going to make this really funny joke about what happens when you age, but then I exhaled during the commercial break and I popped the button off my jacket. So let's just play the Rolling Stones story.
Just about any library you go into these days, you will find some history about the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
And if you go to the Denver Library, you'll find archivist and librarian Katie Rudolph.
The reviews that I read, it was so much more about the audience.
She recently wrote a blog about the Rolling Stones and their early Colorado visits on the library website.
I wonder if they remember that first show.
The first show took place at the Denver Coliseum in 1965, where the acoustics were built for cows.
The acoustics, I guess, are just horrendous for that first show.
It couldn't have been too bad because they came back and played at the Coliseum in 1972, with a stop before that at CSU in 1969.
It was extremely hot in Folsom Field.
Then came 1978 in Boulder, where it reached 100 degrees and fans tried to keep themselves cool.
One article that I read noted that people were bringing in milk jugs, frozen milk jugs of pina coladas, like that was the drink of the summer.
Now, 54 years later, the Rolling Stones are moving on up to the big stadium, and Katie hopes to be there. But tickets aren't $12 like they were in 1978.
Tickets are really expensive. And my boyfriend's parents are coming into town. I still might go.
And if she does, she'll be part of Rolling Stone history. For Next, I'm Tom Cole.
If you're wondering, there are still tickets available to Saturday's concert. Cheapest single ticket is $129. I will be saving my money for the tailor. When we return, a hiker determined to take his best friend to the top of the 14er had to do a lot of carrying. That and your feedback next. The most Colorado thing we've seen today is a guy who is determined to get to the top of a 14er with his dog. But Chad's dog, Hops, is missing a paw. Get it, Hops? So he settles Hops into the backpack, and that is how they made it to the top of Mount Huron near Buena Vista. Hops is not a small dog. That's a good-sized dog. Chad's wife, Carly, sent me the photo. Well done, Hops, as I say to Porter. High paws. Show us the most Colorado thing you've seen or that you've done. Use the hashtag HeyNext or email our team, next@9news.com. Finish with your feedback as always. And Mary Wilkerson notes about pedestrian and cyclist safety in the city. One trip downtown saw pedestrians crossing against the light at 3 intersections. Mary says this is not limited to drivers. 100%, Mary. We've said this with cyclists too. But we can't use somebody else not following the rules to say that nobody has to follow the rules. That would be anarchy. We're hoping to avoid anarchy. Andy Kilgore emailed early in the show to say, Kyle, you've worn that jacket before. He wants something new. Well, there you go, Andy. I blew the button off the front of it, so you will get something new next time.